Ron Shook here today to talk about the basics of Punnett square use in high school biology. Punnett squares, remember, are a shortcut. They are a shortcut to look at probability. Probability tells you the chances of an event occurring. However, as we've seen with flipping coins, the 50-50% of getting a heads, for example, those odds can be defied when we actually flip, and it is not uncommon to get a series of heads in a row. And so one of the purposes for our project that we'll be doing is to see the difference between probability and what may actually come out in a family. Key vocabulary: homozygous, implying two of the same type genes, in this case symbolized as two dominant genes, and this is an example for Mendelian inheritance of hair color. Anytime there's a dominant and a recessive gene, we use the phrase heterozygous. And our final genotype, again, listed as two examples, two representations of genes with letters. These are the same, so the word homozygous applies, and in this case, homozygous recessive. In the absence of a dominant gene, the recessive trait or recessive form of the trait will be revealed. So blonde is recessive to dominant with no dominant gene for brown hair. The phenotype will come out as blonde. In all the other cases, we can see we either have two dominant genes, brown hair, or one dominant gene, which, as the name implies, will dominate the expression for that particular trait. We're going to look through the four most common types of Punnett squares for getting a foothold on the basic concepts. And the Punnett square here is set up. We have each square representing a 25% probability. I've listed the female genotype here. For hair color, she is homozygous recessive and will be a blonde-haired person. Dad, on the other hand, has brown hair. He has two dominant genes. Their children, it is a 100% probability will inherit one dominant gene and one recessive gene, and their phenotype will all be brown. Another example. So here we have a situation where we have two heterozygous parents. Their hair would appear brown. That would be the phenotype because they each have a dominant gene. But as we see when we play out the Punnett square, there is a 25% possibility of them having a blonde child. That would be the homozygous recessive. There would be a 75% chance of them having a brown-haired child, and that is a combination. Homozygous dominant, 25%, and heterozygous, 50%. We come on to a third example. Here, a heterozygous parent, in this case, dad with brown brown hair, mom with blonde hair, a homozygous recessive. That will result in a 50% chance of heterozygous expressing as a brown phenotype and 50% chance of the homozygous recessive inheritance of blonde hair. And then finally, we get the example. So our final example here, two blonde-haired parents, which you get by having homozygous recessive genes for hair color, And since they can only donate recessive genes, our genotypes will all be homozygous recessive, or a 100% chance of having lots of blonde offspring.